a foreigner who moved from Sweden to Singapore, writes about how much he loves the city clean, safe, efficient, and yet he's shocked to learn that many Singaporeans want to leave the very place millions dream of moving to. He asks, why would anyone leave one of the richest countries on earth? I couldn't stop thinking about that question. Because on paper, Singapore is a dream. It's one of the wealthiest nations in the world, a place where everything works: the trains, the streets, the systems. It's safe, modern, and full of opportunity. But the more I looked, the stranger it seemed. I kept coming across posts, comments, and personal stories, all from locals who said they wanted out. Some talked about housing costs. Others mentioned pressure, burnout, and the feeling that life there never slows down. That didn't fit the image we all have of Singapore, the global success story. So I decided to dig deeper. If Singapore really is the dream, why are so many of its people trying to wake up from it? Chapter 1. The Paradox of Prosperity. Singapore has always been seen as the ultimate success story. A tiny island that turned itself into one of the richest nations on earth. No natural resources, no farmland, just pure ambition and strategy. It's a place where everything feels intentional, from the way the skyline is planned to how the streets are kept spotless. The system works almost flawlessly. 4 out of every 100 Singaporeans are millionaires. Average incomes are among the highest in Asia. And for outsiders, it looks like paradise, a place where hard work always pays off. But beneath all that perfection, there's something else. An invisible tension. The cost of housing keeps rising. Everyday items from groceries to utilities have quietly become more expensive. And while wages have grown, the feeling of security hasn't. People are earning more than ever, yet somehow many still feel trapped. The dream that once promised stability now comes with constant pressure to keep up. To work longer hours, to upgrade homes, to chase titles. It's what some locals describe as the paradox of prosperity. The richer the country becomes, the harder it feels to live in it. And that's where this story begins, in the gap between what the world sees and what it actually feels like to live inside Singapore's success. Chapter 2. Meet David, the outsider looking in. To understand what's really happening, I decided to see Singapore through a fresh pair of eyes. That's where I met David Brown. David is 28, from London, and works as a junior AI engineer. On paper, his life seems fine. A good job, a decent salary, about £45,000 a year, and a stable career path. But in reality, it doesn't feel that way. Almost 30% of his income goes straight to rent. Then come taxes, transport, food by the end of the month. There's barely anything left. After 2 years of working full-time, the only thing he's managed to buy is a used 2013 Volkswagen Golf. He's not poor, but he's stuck. David wants what most young professionals want: a sense of progress, some breathing room, and maybe one day, a house he can actually afford. But in London, that dream feels out of reach. So he starts looking overseas. He wants lower taxes, more safety, and a better quality of life. Singapore catches his eye immediately. It's safe, clean, and full of tech opportunities. He applies to a few companies, not expecting much. But a month later, he gets an offer of 80,000 Singapore dollars a year. Not a fortune, but better than what he has in the UK. He accepts, gets his work visa approved, and books his one-way ticket. A few weeks later, David lands in Singapore. When he arrives, he heads straight to the apartment he found online. A small but comfortable place for about 900 Singapore dollars a month. Back in London, he was paying almost £1,500 for a single tiny room. Now, for nearly half that price, he has more space and peace of mind. At first, he's impressed. Everything feels efficient, organized, and safe. The trains run on time, the streets are spotless, and the food incredible. He tells me, if you're single and don't need anything fancy, the cost of living isn't bad at all. But he also notices something else. For families, it's a very different story. The jump in rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is huge. Buying a car costs more than most houses in the UK. And property prices keep climbing faster than wages. Makes him wonder, maybe that's one reason some locals are leaving. Chapter 3. The cracks beneath perfection. When I first arrived in Singapore, everything felt flawless. The trains, the streets, the skyline, all perfectly in sync. It was like living inside a machine that never breaks. But after a few weeks, that perfection started to feel heavy. Every morning, I'd join the rush. People moved through the MRT like clockwork, fast, focused, silent. Nobody looked lost. Nobody slowed down. It was impressive but also exhausting to watch. My job was supposed to be 9 to 6, but no one left before 8. Nobody said you had to stay late, it was just what everyone did. When a whole country runs this efficiently, slowing down feels like failure. Back in London, things were messy, trains delayed, rent high, constant complaints. But at least people had room to breathe. Here, everything worked perfectly and somehow that made it harder. There was no one else to blame but yourself. At night, I'd read local forum stories of burnout and quiet frustration. One post said, "It's not that we hate Singapore. We're just tired of surviving in it." That line hit me. People call it kiasu, the fear of losing. It's everywhere. In school, at work, in daily life. It's what made this tiny island rich, but it's also what keeps people restless. After a few months, I felt it too. You wake up tired, work harder than ever, and still feel behind. That's the hidden cost of perfection. It never lets you rest. Singapore runs flawlessly, but maybe that's the problem. When everything works all the time, people stop remembering what it means to slow down. Chapter 4. The Price of Progress. The longer I stayed in Singapore, the more I realized progress here isn't free. It's built on invisible trade-offs that don't show up in the skyline. People work incredibly hard. They study harder. Kids go for tuition after school. Adults chase promotion after promotion. Families plan life down to the minute. It's discipline at a national scale, but also pressure at a personal one. Conversations with locals often drifted to the same topics. Long hours, high costs, burnout. Most weren't complaining, they were just tired. Tired of chasing a dream that never seems to end. Many young Singaporeans talk about moving abroad to Australia, Canada, even Japan, not for higher pay, but for slower lives. That surprised me. Leaving one of the world's safest and richest nations just to breathe a little easier. The government knows this too. Birth rates are at record lows. Housing prices keep climbing. And while the economy keeps growing, something quieter is shrinking time. Time for family, time for life outside work. Began to see how efficiency comes at a cost, not just money, but meaning. In a system where everything runs perfectly, there's little space for chaos, creativity, or rest. People become like the city itself, polished, capable, but quietly exhausted. Singapore's success is undeniable, but its challenge now is emotional. Chapter 5. The Search for Balance. After months in Singapore, I realized the problem isn't failure, it's perfection. Everything works, but it never stops. People aren't unhappy. They're just tired of keeping up. One night, I met a young couple working in finance. Both successful, both exhausted. When I asked if they planned to start a family, they smiled sadly. "We can't afford to slow down," they said. That sentence summed up modern Singapore. Here, success doesn't give you freedom. It demands more of you. You work hard not just to live, but to prove you belong. Yet beneath that pressure, there's deep pride. Singaporeans know how far they've come. They just want a version of success that leaves room to live. Some are already changing course, smaller homes, simpler lives, slower ambitions. Not rejecting progress, just redefining it. Maybe that's Singapore's next revolution, not higher GDP or taller towers, but the courage to slow down and still feel proud of what you've built. Conclusion: beyond perfection. As I prepared to leave Singapore, I kept thinking about that question. If Singapore is the dream, why are so many trying to wake up from it? Now I think I understand. Perfection feels safe, but it also demands constant performance. When every system works, every person feels the pressure to match it. Singapore is one of the few places that proved discipline can build a nation. But now, it faces a new challenge to build a society where people can live, not just function. Maybe the future isn't about more progress, but more pause. A balance between order and freedom, ambition and rest. Because even in a city that runs like a machine, what makes it human is the heartbeat beneath the system.